You're here with Mark on perfectgardens.com and Jason. So today we're going to be doing a side-by-side comparison between Mars Hydro and Metagrow Light. If you haven't checked out part one, we went into an enormous amount of details of how we even got to this point to compare these two lights and what's so unique about the comparison. The unique comparison, once again, if you haven't checked out part one, is that Jason took a plant completely to flower, then off a single branch, he reverted it back all the way to veg. He cloned off this plant and took 8 clones, which is Do-si-do, and now he split them up. It was 4 and 4 under each light. Was that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jason, get into the story. What did you notice between these two lights? And what was tell us all about the setup, what the tents, were they in the same room? Did you have dividers? What was the whole makeup? So create a visual experience for us as a grower.
So I have to thank Mars Hydro for this because, they sent me the tent, they sent me the light. So they sent me a 4x8 tent, and I have the Metagrow light, which is
The Y spectrum.
it's the X spectrum.
Spectrum X.
So the Spectrum Y is the light without the controller. The Spectrum X comes with the controller that controls. You can get a bunch of Ys and hook them up to the X, and the X will control, I think, up to 50 lights.
Thank you, Jason.
So the Mars Hydro light that they sent me, I don't know which one it is. It's either the 6800, the E6800, or I'm not sure exactly what it is. The documentation that came with the light
I'll look it up.
doesn't specify which one it is. Now, I think there's the FE and then there's the F. I think I have the FE. One of them uses Osram diodes, and the other one uses Samsung diodes. So I believe I got the one with the Osram. There's no markings on the light itself. It says Mars Hydro on it. And I tried to look at pictures from Mars Hydro's website to figure out which one it is.
They say it's the 880 watt LED. So that's at least the wattage output. I'm going to go ahead and ask. Hopefully they'll get back to me while we're on the call. Let's see how good their customer service is.
I think it was the one with the Osram diodes, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure. Now the light is it's a beautiful light. It's very modular. Even the light bars, you could customize how you set them. You don't even have to necessarily use the frame that they give you with. It just makes it easier. But the bars itself they can slide closer to each other or further apart from each other. You can move them around in its frame, which I think is a nice idea. The other thing that's really nice about the light is the driver is detachable. It does not have to attach to the light. I took the driver and I put it outside the tent. The Metagrow light, you cannot do that with at all. You're stuck with the driver connected to the light.
That's the hot part. That's the heat part, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So and on all my lights, I mean, they don't. It used to be that the Blurple lights that you would get, they came with fans on them and everything. They were housed in a case that had cooling fans attached to it. I mean, it's a good idea. You want to keep the driver cool. You don't the more heat you produce, the hotter the driver gets, the lower the lifespan of the light. You want your light to last long, keep it nice and cool. So I attach a clip fan to my drivers on the lights to keep the drivers cool, which I think is what works well because they do produce a lot of heat. The Metagrow, I cannot remove the driver. I do have a fan blows on it. The Mars Hydro driver, I removed from the light itself and put it on top of the tent, and I attached a fan blowing on it there to keep it nice and cool. So I do like the Mars Hydro light, and I've looked at a lot of their products, and I've had they used to have they still have, I think it's called the SP150, the SP300, and the SP, they even have a bigger one. It's just a single light bar, and I always wanted to get one, but I could never afford it. It was out of my price range at the time. So this light bar system that they sent me it's actually a very nice light. It worked really well. I think it's a little, as far as the par ratings are concerned, it's not as high as the Metagrow. The Metagrow, I think, can go a little higher and can be a little bit more intense. I'm not sure why that is. The other thing is the Metagrow comes with I think a UVB bars. I think it's UVA. It comes with 2 extra UV bars that you can connect to the light if you want to increase your terpene production or things like that using the ultraviolet light. I didn't do that this time around because the Mars Hydro didn't come with it, and I wanted to use the main light itself as a comparison. It wouldn't be proper or fair if I did use the UV on the Metagrow and not on the Mars Hydro. So I have 4 plants or 8 plants in a 4x8 tent, 4 on one side, 4 on the other side. It did not use a divider. So it's just they're all in the same tent together. I kept them separated on the sides, but I did not use a divider or anything like that. One of the reasons for that was ventilation purposes.
So just to be clear, both lights were in the same tent, no divider, and you had 4 plants under each light.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So I had three under each light in 10-gallon pots, and then one under each light in a 5-gallon pot.
Okay. But the same exact on both sides. No differences in pot size, clones,
Right. Everything
everything.
was the same. The only difference was, out of the clones, as far as the rooting was concerned, there was one clone that took off much quicker than all the others. It also got a lot more bushier than the others by the time I flipped them all the flower at the same time. I didn't want to do one at as they reached that high. I wanted to get them all in there at the same time so I could deal with them all at the same level. But
What light was that plant under?
that was under the Mars Hydrolite.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So if you look at the setup that I had, so 4 of the plants were actually, the ones in the middle, the 4 that were in the middle would have been getting light from both lights. So really it would be the ones on the side, the ones towards the side walls that only got from the Mars Hydro and only got from the Metagrow. I don't think that really is going to make a difference as far as calculating which light is better or not. And I can't really say that one light is better than the other. One has more options as far as your light spectrum that you're using because of the ultraviolet that it provides. And the other one has a little more flexibility, and you can move the bars around. You could remove the driver from the light itself and keep it out of the tent. I think that's a better option to have as far as heat is concerned. Heat is always a problem with inside a grow tent. It's always a concern. These lights, they're not like CMH lights or any of those metal halides, or they don't get as hot as those, but they do produce a lot of heat, and you can get upwards in the 90s if you're not keeping it ventilated properly. So I think it's a great option to be able to remove the driver and put it on the top or put it outside of the tent. You remove that heat source from the tent, your tent's going to be much better. It's going to be much better for your plants.
I'm just thinking what everyone's thinking. How about the yield? What plants yielded the most?
Well, the yield
under each light,
and it wasn't really that much of a difference. It was a 3% difference in yield. It's about 20 grams.
Although, just throw it out there, the largest plant though was on the Mars Hydro side.
Yes, it was, but
what plant yielded the most? I mean, what light? Which one?
The Metagrow light yielded more. It was a 3%. About 20 grams more I got out of the Metagrow side. Now that's 8 grams shy of an ounce, which if you have more plants, that could be pretty significant.
Yeah, let's do a number, right? So let's do 10 times 20, or let's do 20 lights times 20. So that's going to be 400. So every yield you're going to yield an extra pound. Let's say you have everything down. So that'll be an extra 5 pounds per year. And so let's say they're getting, 1,100. Yeah, that pays for, I would say that does pay for the difference in the lights in 1 year, which is a good return on investment still where the market's at.
So yeah, I mean, if you're a small person growing for yourself, it's not going to make much of a difference which light you use. That's for sure.
And obviously this was just one grow. We got to do another grow, we got to do another grow, repeat the process. If you're, like I said, if you're growing for yourself and you're growing a few plants, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. One of the other things I noticed about the light was to get the same intensity out of the both lights. Now I use a par meter. Oh, I can't even remember who puts it out. It's I use the Apogee par meter to measure the PPFD. And in order to get the same intensity out of the lights, I had to turn the wattage up on the Mars Hydro a little bit more. So if I was running the Metagrow at 60%, I'd have to run the Mars Hydro at 65% to get the same intensity. So so I'm using a little bit more electric on the Mars Hydro side. Now here's another comparison on the difference is, okay, so we're talking about a 3% yield difference, and we're talking about how much was that comparison difference on electricity? Mars Hydro at 65%,
and the Metagrow would be at 60%. It was about a 5% difference in the light intensity.
That's to be we're close, probably like a just so if people were out there, probably like 4.2% difference, probably, right? Closer to
Something
that.
like that, yeah.
Okay, so just so people were calculating stuff out, so now we're talking about a cost for production difference, and now we're talking about 3% yield difference. But when you talk about the cost of electricity, depending if they're getting from commercial or industrial, commercial or residential, that might add on another what do you think, 2%, 3%?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Depending on the cost of electricity, maybe they're another 100. Let's say it costs $100 a month to or what would you say it costs to run each light a month?
Price wise,
Mm-hmm.
I
let's
have to look at my electric bill.
let's say let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's $30, $30 to $50, and then a 5% difference. So let's say another $5 plus is going to take 3 months, so $15. So now we're talking about a 4%. Let's say a 3.5 to 4% difference.
Mm-hmm.
Which you have to kind of play all these things into factor. The cost of your AC, if you don't have to run it as much, might reduce it just because you're able to put the inverters, correct?
The driver.
The driver, thank you, on the outside versus. So as farmers scale up, these things matter when you are recording your metrics to make a decision.
Yeah, even as look, I'm in the construction field. I do a lot of carpentry work. When you're measuring things up and building things, even like a 32nd of an inch. When you're building a wall, 32nd of an inch is not that much. But when you're laying tile on a floor and you're a 32nd of an inch off on that one, and then you're a 32nd off of an inch off on another, that adds up. And on a big floor, that's going to be a huge mistake, and you're going to run into huge problems when you get to the end of the floor. Nothing's going to fit. Everything's going to pinch together. Nothing, because but you say to yourself, "Oh, it was only a 32nd of an inch. That's not that much." You can't even see that, pretty much. So yeah, a small percentage. The more you scale up, the worse it gets. So yeah, these little numbers, they matter, and there's all kinds of different things you can think about. Now, you're using a light that requires a little bit more electricity to run, but you can still take the driver and put it outside the tent. So you know what? I don't have to run the fan as much. I don't have to. So I'm saving on other sides and losing on other sides. So it kind of evens itself out, I think. I could have turned that light up probably if I wanted to include the fans that I have to run to keep the Metagrow light tent cooler than the Mars Hydro light, or keep it as cool as the Mars Hydro tent. One's got more intense light. One, I have to turn it up a little higher to get the intensity, but yet I don't have to run the fan as much. I don't have to exhaust the tent as much. So there's, and plus, whenever you're exhausting your tent, you're also sucking out all that nice humid air that you have your humidifier running to keep the humidity level, to keep your the VPD proper in your tent. The more you have to exhaust it, the more you pull out that nice humid air inside your tent. The more the humidifier has to run, the more the fans have to run because of the heat. Those, they all add up. So
I'm right now sharing my screen so you guys can see the lights and the price differences. So the Spectrum X LED currently right now is selling for $7.99. Make sure you use the PG10 for a discount. And then the LED grow light is the 800 equivalent. So just throwing this out there, so this one is $629. There is an 80-watt difference, but it does cost more to have the same equivalency in light output. You're running the Mars Hydro a little harder, but it does make sense because it's less wattage, because 800 watts versus an 880. There is an almost $170 difference. So if you had, just doing the math real fast, 170, and you're running 10 lighter, that's $1,700 that you would have to. So that's about 2 pounds. And we were talking about if you're running 10 lights. Oh, it's actually 20 lights. If you're running 20 lights, that would give you an extra 5 pounds at the end of the year. So right here, if you had 20 lights, that would cost you $3,400. So that would be roughly 3.5 pounds. So you're roughly at you know, and because of where the market's how fast the market's deflating and prices are going down, if you're going to stay competitive in the market for cost wise, it might be better for you to actually start with the Mars Hydro because the cost
The
is
upfront
so
cost
less.
is a little
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yep. And
It does
your
have
yield
other
and
benefits.
difference. Yeah. So just want to throw all that out there. Quick opinion.
Yeah, so
What
it's definitely they're definitely both comparable. For a small grow, it's not, 20 grams is not that big of a difference. I could probably make up those 20 grams just by turning the light up a little bit higher. Although I was right at the limit, so I was up to the top canopy's par rating was in the 900s.
Okay, guys. I think Jason, do you have anything else to add to your experience with these two lights?
There is one more thing. I don't know if this is going to change the industry or not. They make all their tents, and all the companies are doing this. They're all making their tents. Seems to be that 80-inch height. So, that's a little, it's not even 7 feet. Most homes have 8 foot ceilings. A 7 foot tent, that 4 inches of height is a really, really, really helpful as far as growing indoors. Height becomes a big problem, especially when we're talking about photoperiod plants. Photoperiods, when you flip them into flower, they can double in size. So if you have 80 inches, which is 6 foot 8 inches, if you have 6'8", which is just about as tall as your doorway, most doors in a home are 6'8", 6 foot 8 inches. And the problem that arises is, you have a plant, let's say it's 3 foot tall from the ground. So in the pot, 3 foot tall. You have your light. You need to have a certain distance from. If you get too close to your plant, you're going to cause light burn, light stress, and there's all kinds of problems you can have with that. Not only that, you have problems with heat. So when I originally set the tent up, I set it up with the inline exhaust fan inside the tent. Now I was using an 8-inch exhaust fan, and I think it's about, it's like 10 inches wide. So it's taking up almost a foot of space in the ceiling of my tent. So that puts my lights down pretty low. I have 3 foot, 3 foot of the plant. Then I have the about a foot and a half space of the ceiling is taken up by the vent and the lights. So that's already 4.5 feet right there. And that leaves me with, you can do the math, 2 feet, 24 inches between a 3 foot plant and the light.
So are you saying they should make those tents bigger?
I think the tents need to be taller.
Taller.
So I have a quick tent. It's a 2x4, 2 foot by 4 foot by the maker's called Quick Tents, and it's a 7 foot. It's 84 inches, and let me tell you that those 4 inches are, that 4 inches gives me a lot more than 4 inches when you think about it.
I do
So
like
the
their corners of their tents too, that they use their connectors. I've
yeah.
Most other tents do actually. I know this is a small thing, but it's actually something I've dealt with a lot is like these corners break all the time. And I like theirs because this is just a solid piece of plastic, it'd be interesting to see how long they last and if how easy they break. What do
Well,
you think about them?
The Mars Hydro is all look, the quality of the materials used in the Mars Hydro 10, I think is great.
Okay.
It's not as good as some of the other companies, but it's above the bottom line. It's definitely high end. It's definitely high end. I like the way they have their the front is actually 4 panels. So you have two big panels that you can open up, or you have two doors that you can open up. The one thing that I noticed about the large panels is, where they zipper in the middle, it zippers from the top down as opposed from the bottom up. The other tents that I'm using, they all zipper from the bottom up where the two panels in the middle meet, which means, if I want to vent the tent quickly, the Mars Hydro one, I can easily open up the bottom and let cool air come in through the bottom. The other tents, I have to zipper it down from the top. So I can't really, that would be used more for exhausting as opposed to pulling cool air in. So, but I like that idea to how they have the doors set up on the tent. They're really nice off. It was really easy for me to get into the tent and water everything. The only problem I did have with it is the socks that they use, for hooking up your ducting, or the socks for the electrical.
Hmm.
The sewing could be a little bit better on those. They're all falling apart. The
Okay.
threads are coming off of them. But I just cinch those closed, and I don't even. That's all I have to do with those. I'm not constantly going in and in through through the socks. So they're just the wires run through, the vent runs through. I cinch it closed. That's the end of what I'm dealing with it.
But I like the
Um,
detail.
so the doors, every day I'm going in those. I'm opening those up and looking at them and checking the plants. So I'm always using the doors. The zippers are nice. They work fine. The construction of the doors is done well. My only problem with the tent is the height. So normally with a light, I would use the ratchets. The rope
Hmm.
ratchets. I would hook the lights up to the rope ratchets, and then I could just adjust the height of the light easily using the rope ratchets. Problem with the rope ratchets in this tent and the size of my plants was meant that I could not use the rope ratchets. I could not use the exhaust inside the tent. I had to pull the exhaust fan out of the tent, and I had to use. Are you familiar with a bull clip?
A bowl clip? No, what is that?
A bull clip is you see it mostly with large stacks of paper. They're used to
Oh
keep
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it clips it, and then you fold
yeah.
the
So
wings over. Yeah.
so I used bull clips to connect my lights to the ceiling of the tent. I had to get a little bit creative on how I did that because the rope ratchets, between each hash or each clip took up too much space and the lights hung down too far. So I had to use the bull clips. I had to get creative and so now I only have about 2 inches of space between the ceiling of the tent and the light. That's how high up I had to put the lights to keep them from damaging the plants. If I had that extra 4 inches, I wouldn't have had to, if it was at least 7 foot, I wouldn't have had to do any of that. I would have been able to keep everything inside the tent. And that was my only that's why I like, there's Gorilla Tent and then there's Ultra Yield, which is also a very good tent, I think. They're also not a tent, Gorilla, everybody's heard of Gorilla tents. And all the Gorilla tents, their standard height is 7 foot and they come with a 1 foot extension. They all come with a 1 foot extension. So you can have an 8 foot high tent. I think that's a great idea. Same thing with the Ultra Yield. It comes with a 1 foot extension. I have a 5 by 5 by 8 foot tent in my bedroom. I have a 4 by 4 by 8 tent in a closet. So and those heights really do make the tent much better to use. Now there's another company that produces tents and that's AC Infinity, and they have the thickest tent canvas out there on the market now. I think it's 2000D, whereas the Mars Hydro one is what 1600D or something like that, which
Hmm.
is also very high. You go to Amazon, you look at the tents that they have on Amazon. Most of the cheaper ones, they're 200D, 300D, 600D. They're not into the 1000D, 1600D, 2000D, or anything like that. So Mars Hydro tents are there. They are there as far as quality is concerned. And with AC Infinity also. If they would make a 7 foot, at least a 7 foot tent, I think that would be way better. But they're all
I know what you're talking about, man. You opening and closing it, having to get in there, having to just hunch your back. It's just sometimes you're just like, I hate this tent. Screw this.
hey, but I made
Jason,
it make it work.
Jason,
I'm
you
trying to
really do,
pass it
man.
on to them. Huh?
The product's amazing. I really enjoyed the opportunity to stop by your home and trying it out. And thank you for the opportunity to once again hang out with you and the missus and
We're glad to
everyone.
have you anytime.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's nice. I genuinely do like getting on the road and meeting my clients that end up turning into friends. So thank you. Appreciate it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and have a great grow, everyone.
Is it normal that if you took a clone and put it side by side with a plant that was from seed, I think from seed you're going to get a lot more production out of it than you would the clone. And is that a thing?